there's no doubt that Elliot Spitzer used hookers, escorts, and that it's against state law in any event. Maybe not federal law, but I think the other thing we have to keep our eye on the ball about is the point is compare. What are we more focused on? The sexual peccadillos of our public officials, or what they do as public officials, and that sometimes gets a little bit lost here. Elliot Spitzer, in the overall balance of his life, if you look at what he did in terms of trying to stem the tide of corporate irresponsibility that ultimately led to a financial meltdown that is still taking its toll on all of us, he was heroic. And then we have to reckon with how to balance that with his private imperfections. And sometimes this whole game of gotcha that we've become very fond of playing with our public figures is blinding us to some bigger truths.
Well, and I also think perhaps we could have used some more Elliot Spitzers in the world.
Yeah, no doubt. But you wonder how many Elliot Spitzers are going to come forward knowing the kind of public scrutiny of their private lives, which is inevitably going to result. Yeah. And that becomes a problem, too.
No, but I guess the other question I had, would he have been successful as governor if this hadn't happened?
I think it seemed like in the film we say he was turning the corner. There are some people who disagree with that, but I think he was turning the corner in a positive way. That is, after a lot of trials and tribulations, he was learning how to play the game a little bit better. And I think over time he probably would have become a pretty good governor. So, but the jury's still out, or jury will never get to sit on that one.
No. All right, so Alex, you are Mr. Busy Beaver. You tend to do more than one film at a time. You're often juggling many projects, and if I've got it right, you still have a Ken Kesey movie coming up. You want to talk about that?
There's a Ken Kesey movie coming up and a Lance Armstrong movie coming up. And the Ken Kesey movie is called Magic Bus. It's almost done, probably 2 weeks away from picture lock. And it's a kind of archival cinema verite film. When I say archival cinema verite, it means that we got the right from the Kesey estate to the some 40 or 50 hours of 16 millimeter color film of that famous bus trip across the country taken by Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters.
The electric Kool-Aid acid test.
The electric Kool-Aid acid test. But this is kind of, Tom Wolfe gave you his version. This is kind of the upfront and personal real version of what really happened. And he had access to some of those tapes, but we really have them all. And so
Where did they come from?
They were shot by the Pranksters and audio tapes done by the Pranksters, both at the time and then when they came back from their trip. Not long after, Kesey sat everybody down, had them watch the footage, and then they commented on it on audio tape. So there's no direct address interviews in the film. It's all a kind of immersion experience. It's fun. And we have...
It's taken a little while.
It's taken a long time, in part because... we had to restore this footage. This footage had been, in some cases, badly treated by people who didn't really know production, and we've had to, for example, they didn't know a lot about production. They had good machines, but they didn't know a lot about how to use them. So, it used to be customary back in the day when you wanted to sync sound and image, because it was always a dual system. You would have to do this. Everybody remembers the clapper. Well, they had sound and they had image, but not once in the whole 50 hours did they ever go like this. So that became a frustrating process to try to put that together. But Martin Scorsese's Film Foundation helped us to restore the film, and so did A&E, who was our partner. And so over time, we put it together, and I worked very closely with my longtime collaborator, Allison Elwood. And, I think what we've developed is something pretty unique.
Where will that be shown first, do you think?
Don't know. I think, we'll have to see. We've submitted it to some festivals, and we'll see.
Okay. And you don't have a distributor beyond A&E?
No, A&E is or History Channel is the TV partner, but everything else is up for grabs.
And then you have the Lance Armstrong, which also has been in the works for a while.
For a long time. I shot his comeback year, which is 2009. And I shot at the Tour de France last year, and we've just locked picture. And I think it's great. It's unlike a lot of stuff I've done.
I don't think of you as a sports documentary.
No, I'm a sports junkie. I'm now doing a piece also for ESPN that's coming out, so I'm really into it. But this was one where we had the resources and the event to be able to cover it like a movie would have covered it. I had 10 cameras at the Tour de France. It was fantastic. We had a little camera on the bike of one of Lance's teammates. We had, and so there are a lot of sequences in that film which are cut together like an action film. At the same time, there are a lot of other intrigues and dramas. We had great access to a lot of people, so I think it's going to surprise a lot of people.
Thanks,
Good.
Alex.